Is Mississippi State's quarterback room the most underrated in the SEC? Let's break down the battle under center.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com, 50% off your first year. All right, we got a packed show for you today. First off, I'm Jaron, Spor, National College Football Writer of Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride, but we're going to be, all week, we're going to be previewing each position, and then we're also going to get into coaches, and then we'll end it on Friday with our overall outlook. We've talked about it a little bit, but now that Media Days is a wrap, we want to get into that a little more. So first, the position we got to start with is arguably the most important in all of sports, and that's the quarterback position. We feel Blake Shapen obviously is going to be the guy at quarterback, but what is kind of your feeling on the quarterback position?
I think it's, when you said, like you teased it, is it underrated? I don't know if at the top it's underrated, but I think the depth could be. Because I think we kind of have a good idea of what Shapen is, maybe not in this offense specifically, but from what we've seen from him in the time that he's been healthy at Baylor and in the few games he was healthy at Mississippi State, I think he could be, above average quarterback. But I think that, it's an incomplete grade on what Kromenhoek could be. We didn't get to see a lot of him at Florida State, but you have someone who is a highly rated recruit who has a little bit of experience. And then my personal favorite quarterback on the roster, Kamario Taylor, which I've said I think he is raw and could probably use sometimes sitting. But then we heard the practice reports. We saw the spring game stuff. Maybe he's farther along than we thought. So I think it's the backup battle is what's very interesting about this going into the fall.
Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, we saw that one, what was it, maybe a month or two ago, that quarterback ranking that had Kromenhoek and Shapen like a slash.
Yeah.
There's no quarterback battle that we believe there is. But Mississippi State, obviously, the quarterback for every team, but especially with the offense that Jeff Lebby runs, the Mississippi State team, they run that quarterback. The quarterback runs the whole show because it's a high up-tempo offense. They have to be able to make the quick decisions because this is an offense that the defense predicts what you want to run offensively. And that there's a lot of people out there that believe that that's not a good thing because then the defense can kind of manipulate the quarterback. But for example, if they show, pressure on the left side, that automatically tells him, okay, throw it here. Or if they show a light box, then, okay, we're going to run it. Obviously, if they show a heavier box, then we're going to pass it. But the issue with that is there's teams that can disguise a light box. Mm-hmm. So the quarterback does the handoff, and it's actually a heavier box. But, yeah, last year, obviously, only played 4 games, 974 passing yards, 68.5% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Was off to a pretty good start last season. Running the show before, as you mentioned, injuries, and that's kind of been his history. Outside of the 2022 season when he played 13 games, threw for 2,790 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 10 picks. But last year his passer rating was a 166.9, which was a career high for him. Yeah. Now, it didn't result in many wins because they won 1 game during that time. But he played really well. I mean, I look at the Arizona State game. Obviously, we know Arizona State was a playoff team last year. They lost 30-23, but he threw for 268, 2 touchdowns, and completed 64% of his passes. I mean, that's what you want.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And that's the kind of game you expect from him. You're not going to get – I mean, he obviously could go off and have one of those 500-yard games if everything breaks right. But you're kind of going to be expecting a guy who's not going to win you the game, but going to keep you in it, going to not lose it for you in most situations. So you should feel good about this position. You shouldn't feel great, but you should feel good. Because even if something happens to Shapen, because, we've talked about his injury history, there's a lot of it. If that comes up again, you have a guy with a little bit of experience behind him and someone that you think is the future of the program also there. So that, I mean, you feel good about Shapen is kind of where I'm coming down on this. Is he's good enough to get you probably to the 4 wins we've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, 4 or 5 wins. Hopefully, it's the 5 wins, but obviously we'll go more into depth on that on Friday. But yeah, I mean, again, you feel pretty good about him if he can stay obviously healthy. And then Kamario Taylor, as you mentioned, has a lot of potential. I don't think they end up throwing him into the fold if something happened where to Shapen. Obviously, knock on wood that nothing does happen to Shapen, but I think they would go with Kromenhoek. Maybe if it's like one of those where he got hurt in game 9 and you're not in bowl contention, you throw Taylor in there. But I just think Shapen obviously ran the offense efficiently last year, did well. His worst game was the Florida game, which was the game he obviously got injured in. But he was, obviously, hopefully you're good, but he was really good against Eastern Kentucky. That's a game you want to be good in. He was really good against Toledo, even though that was his 1 interception. But he threw for 319 yards, completed almost 72% of his passes. The team as a whole and the offense wasn't good because they lost 41-17 and the defense wasn't good. But overall, like you look at his numbers, given the history of Jeff Lebby's offense and those kind of offenses, he did exactly what you would want your quarterback to do. And because of all of his experience, you should feel good with him under center this year.
Yeah, you definitely should feel good. And you hate to keep talking about the injuries, but you have to. When someone has a long injury history as he does, it's going to come up. And yeah, I think you're right about how most likely if something does happen, Kromenhoek is the long-term backup. But I won't be surprised if, given his athleticism, Kamario Taylor has some packages designed for him. I mean, depends on if they want to preserve his red shirt. I mean, I could see it happening for about 4 games, and so you keep the red shirt. But if they're not worried about that, then I think you probably see him maybe play 5 plays a game, something to get that speed out there, just confuse the defense and try to get some big plays. But this is a hard one to really break down because we know who's at the top, and it's just like, he's the starter, but it's not someone that you're sitting here super excited that he's the starter. It's just, he's good.
Yeah, no, exactly. We've talked about this before. He's a very solid starting quarterback. Like if he's your starting quarterback, you're happy. If you're trying to win a national championship, you're probably not thrilled because
you hope he's your backup. If you're trying,
you hope he's your backup kind of thing. But he's a guy that obviously can get the job done. He won a Big 12 championship by coming in the second half of that game. He's just, again, he's a guy with a lot of experience, a lot of big game experience. And actually, I think he started that game.
He played
well in the first half and then struggled, I think, in the
greatest performance of a quarterback I've ever seen is Blake Shapen first half of the Big 12 title game.
Yeah. But anyways, he played really well in that game overall, but obviously struggled in the second half. But yeah, a lot of experience, a lot of big game experience. You just have to hope that the pieces around him work well, which we talked about Brennan Thompson being at SEC Media Days 2 weeks ago before the SEC Media Days got underway. We talked about that, and obviously he exceeded expectations and kind of what I expected from him at SEC Media Days, given what he has done at Oklahoma. But for him to be there and be picked to go there was obviously something that the coaches are seeing a lot in him. So maybe he's that deep ball threat that they were lacking last year. I mean, Mississippi State, we were lacking a deep ball threat, and they went in the portal and flooded it with several deep ball guys.
Yeah, they did. There's a lot of them, and we'll get into that a little bit more tomorrow's show when we actually get the wide receivers. But this offense is set up for Shapen to succeed. He has some experience in it. He's had a year studying it, even when he was on the field, been through the spring practice, going to go through, fall camp going in. So hopefully he's got a better understanding, more weapons, better O-line, and we can actually see what him and this offense is supposed to look like.
Yeah, and you mentioned the offensive line again. We'll talk about that later. But that all those things, if they can come together, and he plays just like he did this past season before he was injured, I think it will lead to more wins. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But The running back position, we got to talk about that coming up next. That's the one I'm probably most excited about. I see a lot of potential in that room, and that could also help shape it out.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that. That's coming up next. Well, ever wish managing your money felt easier with Monarch Money? It can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control of your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. One of the things that I noticed by using Monarch Money was I was spending way too much on food delivery services. I can't be the only one, especially since COVID happened. That's been one of the crazes. I do it all the time. Ultimately, decided it was way too much money, and I need to just drive down the street and not be lazy and go get my food, or need to start cooking some more. So that was the big thing that I realized. And with me just getting married, my wife and I were able to kind of budget with using Monarch Money and see the things that we were spending on that was okay, and some of the things that we need to cut back on. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, a part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so the running back position, that's been the interesting one.
Yeah.
We both think Devon Booth will be the starter, but Fluff Bothwell has obviously gotten a ton of hype.
Thank you, EA Sports.
Yeah. He actually was rated higher than Booth. The South Alabama transfer obviously had an amazing freshman season, 832 yards, 13 touchdowns. But Booth had a really good season last year, 759 yards and 5 touchdowns, average 5 yards a carry. I'm really excited about this room.
Yeah, I am too. And Booth and Fluff, I mean, that sounds like a weird law firm. Kind of have different games. Like Booth is a little bit more explosive. Fluff's brings the power a little bit more. So they're gonna, and they're listed on the depth chart right now, projected depth chart that's unofficial. Booth is the starter. Fluff is backup. I think it's going to kind of probably be a 60-40, maybe even a 55-45 split.
Yeah.
I expect their carries to be very similar and kind of game dependent. More, you kind of ride the hot hand. But when you have two guys like this with that have this kind of production, that's exciting. It is a very exciting thing to have. And then that's not even getting to the fact that you had Johnny Daniels behind both of them, that he's had a solid year as well. I mean, 540 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then 76 receiving yards. When that's your third back, you're feeling real good.
Yeah, and if you look at Jeff Lebby's history, I mean, just go to his last year at Oklahoma. He likes to use multiple running backs. Sawchuk led them with 744 yards on 120 carries. Tawee Walker was second with 102 carries and 513 yards. Not eye-popping numbers, but I mean, just shows the carries were 18 difference for that season. So he likes to use both running backs. So I think it's going to be close to a 50-50 split. And in this day and age, you need that. You need 2 different types of running backs. But he also likes to throw in the quarterback run game. I'm not quite sure how much he's going to use that, just because of the injury history with Shapen. Obviously, Shapen has the ability. We know that. But if he can run a little bit, that would also add another dimension to the run game.
Yeah, that's also part of why I think you might see some packages for Kamario Taylor, is because Leby does like the quarterback run game. So I can see him factoring in that. But honestly, yeah, you mentioned it. It'll probably be close to a 50-50 split. And this is no shade to Booth at all. I think he's a great back, but I honestly will not be surprised if halfway through the year Fluff is kind of taken over lead back.
Yeah. And
it's not, like I said, no shade to Booth. I just think Fluff has almost like a little bit more to him. He has a little bit more potential, maybe a second year that you can see, that they'll see. But I still think it's going to be probably close to a 50-50 split, with Johnny Daniels coming in to kind of, spell them both at times. If, you get in a blowout, you don't want to risk either of them getting hurt, put in him. But this is a very exciting group. Again, this is something you and me have talked about a lot. I'm one of the people who I I'm kind of in the running backs don't matter crew, but they do to an extent. But the offensive line has to be on point. If the offensive line isn't blocking well, it doesn't matter who your running back is unless it's Barry Sanders. But
Yeah. The funny thing is they're very similar running backs in terms of stature. Booth is 5'10", 205, according to Mississippi State's page, and Fluff is 5'10", 219. So they're very similar in stature. But the one thing I will say, scheme, especially in college, scheme can kind of make up for some offensive line deficiencies. And we saw that last year with Booth because the offensive line was terrible. And he still averaged 5 yards per carry. And that was like a key number. That's still the number that every time I look at it, like I do a double take. Because when you have 5 yards per carry, first off, that's just a good season, period. But then you factor in how bad the offensive line was. That's an even better season. Fluff averaged obviously 7.5 yards per carry, but different competition, different offensive line. The one thing that I want to see is if any of them become a pass catching threat, because Fluff had 92 yards receiving last year and Booth had 164, and they both had 13 catches. And now Booth had 4 receiving touchdowns, so they used him kind of around the red zone, obviously, and break a couple away. But I want to see if either one of them becomes more of a threat.
Yeah, and I think that could determine who kind of ends up getting a little bit more, being on the higher end of the platoon, is who separates himself as a receiver. Both can clearly do it to an extent. It's just going to be what can you do after the catch? Because a lot of times, unless it's schemed perfectly or a defender runs the wrong way, you see the running back on those plays, they have one man to beat. And then if they beat him, it is a massive gain. So I think we'll see a lot of things where they're put in situations with one man to beat, and whoever beats that one man more often probably ends up getting a little bit more of the lion's share of the carries, because you kind of have to make that guy don't want to say the lead back, but the one who gets a few more carries. Because if one becomes the dominant receiving threat, you don't want to telegraph your hand that this could be more of a pass to the running back than a handoff. But just an exciting room, honestly.
It is. And looking at his numbers, he had 2 catches for 23 yards against Arizona State, did have a touchdown, 2 catches for 1 yard against Toledo, 1 catch for 2 yards against Georgia, but it was a touchdown. A&M is finally when he kind of started breaking free in the receiving game. 2 catches for 31 and a touchdown, 1 for 54. It was that great long touchdown catch against Arkansas, 1 for 14 against UMass, and then he had 3 for 40 in the last game against Ole Miss. But this was also when he started catching fire in the run game too, because starting with that A&M game that I mentioned, he had 79 yards rushing, then 93 against Arkansas, then 76 against UMass, 125 against Tennessee. We know how great that Tennessee defense was. 124 against Missouri. Again, Missouri had a really good defense last year. And while he was held to 38 yards rushing against Ole Miss, that was the 40-yard receiving game. So you like that. But, yeah, we'll see which one breaks free and kind of becomes more of that receiving threat. And then we'll see if any of the other guys, like Johnny Daniels, obviously a transfer, does he step in and get some playing time? Xavier Gayton, Seth Davis, guys like this, do they ever step up and make an impact at all? Maybe even in the return game, which we'll talk about specialists later on, but maybe that's it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways this could all go. None of them really seem bad. Like, whoever ends up on top, you feel good about it. This isn't a situation where you're worried about depth, which is great to have a position like that. Booth had that strong, after about the 5th game, really took off. Will he keep building? We'll see. So that's kind of what to watch for. And going into spring camp is, does he keep building, or is it, that 50-50 split and they just have their roles?
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next, we got to give our top dog of the week. Don't go anywhere. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, who is your top dog of the week?
So I kind of went back and forth on this one. Obviously Media Day just wrapped up, so I was going to go with something about that. And, shout out, Leby had a great week, but shout out to him for picking the right guys to go is really kind of where it comes down to. Obviously, coaches, it's hard to glean too much because they hit you with the coach speak for however many days they're there.
Right.
Every interview they give is just, yeah, we're putting in the work, that kind of stuff. But he picked the right guys, and we talked about it a lot with Thompson going. It kind of crazy. Transfer wide receivers, one of your choices for media day. Yeah, it was the right choice.
And I thought about going with Thompson because he got that honor, but the thing, and I will go with him actually for getting that honor to go, because that says a lot about him as a player and as a person and being the leader. Also, the thing about media days, it's hard to kind of pick through all the stuff, all the coach speak that you mentioned, because every single coach had the best offseason they've had.
Yeah.
Like every one of them.
Best shape of their life.
Yep, they're in great shape. They had all these changes. Oh, it's going to be great. The year's going to be fantastic. And then, we'll see what happens on the field. But nonetheless, I do love Media Day. Mainly the reason why I like it is two reasons. One, you get to hear from the leaders of the team, kind of get a feel from them. And I like hearing from all the other teams as well. Mm-hmm. The other thing I like is it signals the football season's about a month away. So that's just another sign that fall camp's about to get underway. But no, I just, and I talked about it when he was announced, but Brennan Thompson getting that honor was just, that's just massive for any transfer to get that. And then specifically at the wide receiver position, a position we know that, which we'll dive in on tomorrow's episode, we know it has a lot of work that needs to happen with it, and they need a deep ball threat, and he could be that. But it all starts with having a leader in the room. And so having him get nominated to go and then, obviously was a massive deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal. And media days is kind of that last check mark before football season really gets going. So glad that's in the past. And now we can really start looking forward to football season getting ramped up. And it's hard to take anything they say away and be like, yes, this one sentence has me excited. This answer has me excited, because
I think it all makes you excited because you're going to buy into it.
Right. But it's also 5 words different from the thing everyone else said. So it's kind of like, all right. But
as soon as you hear anything they say, you're like, oh, we're going undefeated. It's happening.
This is great. Then the next answer is like, no, they're going undefeated.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's always great. It's fun to see it. There's always, it's just that last check mark. So, it was fun to listen to it, get the guys. You start getting in the rhythm again. You hear all the football players talking, the coaches talking. You see the schedule turning. You're like, all right, here we go. Now it's time to get rolling. You start feeling good, but you got to temper it because, again, they're all saying the same thing. But, hey, it was a good showing.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, we're excited about the season, though. Like I said, we're going to break down every single position group, even the specialists. We don't leave out the specialists. We'll talk about them. But we're going to go through every single position group this week. So it'll be a lot of fun. So stick around for us. But thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We post daily videos Monday through Friday on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, on YouTube as well. We're going to try to post those all this week, but both of us have a very busy week, so we'll see what ends up happening. It might not be as daily this week, but we definitely will get back to that after this week if we're not able to. But hit that like, subscribe, ring the notification bell on YouTube. We love all that support, especially with our goal of trying to get to 1,000 by the early in the season. So help us reach that goal. But until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.